A very good evening, friends. I welcome you all to the daily newspaper analysis brought to you by the Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 8th July 2024. Here are the list of articles which we are going to discuss today. So, let's get started. Look at this article. As everyone knows that elephants are our national heritage animals. But at the same time, human-elephant conflict is a prolonged challenge we are facing. With the rise in urbanization and clearing of forested lands, human-elephant encounters have become more difficult to tackle. In this scenario, today's Hindu newspaper article stated that an artificial intelligence can be a solution to solve the human-elephant conflicts. In this backdrop, we are going to discuss the basics of Indian elephants and how they are different from their African counterparts in this discussion. Then moving forward, we are also going to look about the elephant corridors and other conservation strategies which are being followed in India. Okay, now let's start the discussion with the basics of Indian and African elephant. See, there are three subspecies of Asian elephant which are Indian elephant, Sumatran elephant and Sri Lankan elephant. The Indian subspecies has the widest range and accounts for the majority of the remaining elephant on this continent. Know that it is placed as endangered under IUCN Red List. With respect to Wildlife Protection Act 1972, Indian elephants are being posted in the Schedule 1. Now, with respect to African elephants, it is to be noted that there are two subspecies of African elephant. They are the savanna or bush elephant and forest elephant. Okay. Now, with respect to IUCN Red List, note that African savanna elephant are being in the endangered category, whereas African forest elephant are in the critically endangered category. Moving forward, let's look at the conservation strategies which are being employed in India. Firstly, with respect to elephant corridors. See, elephant corridors can be described as a strip of land that enables the movement of elephant between two or more friendly habitats. See, these corridors were reported by the respective state governments and ground validation methods were used to verify them. According to the report of the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, West Bengal leads with 26 elephant corridors, which constitute 17% of the total. Moreover, East Central India contributes to 35%, while Northeast has 32% of elephant corridors. Know that the South India has 21% and Northern India has the lowest with 12% of corridors. Such corridors to 150, a remarkable increase from 88, which is registered at 2010. In addition to these corridors, other conservation efforts like Project Elephant, launched by the Government of India in 1992 as a centrally sponsored scheme. See, it enabled the establishment of elephant reserves and the adoption of World Elephant Day on August 12 to help conserve and protect elephants in India and improve their welfare. Now, here are the list of elephant reserves in India. Guys, please look through it as this will be asked in the preliminary examination. Okay, on continuing our discussion, see, Gaj Yatra is a national-wide awareness campaign to celebrate the elephants and highlight the necessity of securing the elephant corridors. Okay, now from our discussion, we have addressed the various conservation efforts from India to preserve its national heritage along with some basic facts about Asian and African elephants, which comes very handy in our preliminary questions. With these basic points, now let us see the next news article of the day. Look at this article. When we think of amoeba, we know it's a unicellular organism having asexual reproduction. More importantly, it's very easy to sketch in our school days. But no one would have thought that it has the potential to kill a human being. Interesting, isn't it? Yes. It's in today's newspaper. It has been stated that there have been 4 cases, including 3 deaths of the rare but fatal primary amoebic meningoencephalitis (PAM) in Kerala in the last 2 months. UPSC have frequently asked about the more threatening diseases and about the viruses in the preliminary. So, in this regard, this brain-eating amoeba becomes very important for the 2025 preliminary. So, let's start with what is amoebic meningoencephalitis. See, primary amoebic meningoencephalitis or PAM is caused by Naegleria fowleri, an amoeba that thrives in the warm freshwater lakes, ponds, rivers. It can infect the brain and destroy the tissues which are present in it. This one-celled organism is called brain-eating amoeba. See, these infections, though rare, are fatal and 97% of the patients don't survive. Moreover, this infection happens when people go for a swim in the lakes, ponds, rivers during the summer season. It's also said that it could occur if the atmospheric temperature is high and water levels are low. The amoeba enters the body through nose and reaches the brain. It destroys the brain tissues and causes the swelling. Here it is important to note that the infection does not spread from person to person. Swallowing water contains the amoeba does not also lead to this infection. Let's understand the symptoms and how it can be treated. See, the symptoms usually appear within a week of infection and includes severe headache, fever, nausea, vomiting, stiff neck, confusion, seizures and hallucination. The infection progresses rapidly and it can lead to coma and death. See, the chances of survival are unfortunately low. Now look at the treatment. See, the treatment includes a combination of drugs. The drug miltefosine has shown efficacy in killing the Naegleria fowleri in laboratory settings and has been used successfully in the treatment of some survivors. So, precautionary measures like avoiding common water bodies like ponds, lakes can be helpful. Okay, this is all regarding the discussion. With this, let us move on to see the next news article of the day. Friends, imagine a material so thin that is almost invisible, yet stronger than steel, more conductive than copper, and flexible enough to be stretched like rubber. It's nothing but graphene. Welcome to the world of graphene, a revolutionary nanomaterial that's about to change the way we live, we work, and we imagine the future. Okay, today's science section of the Hindu covered briefly about the potential of graphene. In this context, let's understand about the basics of graphene, as this will be asked in our preliminary examination. Why? Because UPSC nowadays stressing more on carbon nanotube in the UPSC preliminary and mains also. So having a basic understanding about graphene is very important for us. Let's start our discussion. See, graphene is a single layer or monolayer of pure carbon tightly bound in a hexagonal honeycomb lattice. It's an allotrope of carbon. See, it's the basic structural element of other carbon allotropes including graphite, charcoal and carbon nanotubes. It's extracted from graphite. See, graphite is arranged in a 3D crystalline manner, whereas graphene is a 2D crystal only an atom thick. Now let us see the properties of graphene. See, graphene is the thinnest, that is one atom thick compound known to human. It's also the lightest material which is known and the strongest compound discovered. Know that it's about 100 to 300 times stronger than steel and harder than diamond. It's an excellent conductor of electricity and has a high thermal conductivity. Know that it's flexible, transparent and has large surface area. Also note that graphene is almost completely transparent, absorbing only 2.3% of light. Having discussed about the properties, now let us move on to understand about the applications. Graphene is a transparent and flexible conductor that holds great promise for various applications like solar cells, light emitting diodes, integrated photonic circuit devices, touch panels and smart windows, etc. See, smartphone products with graphenes are already on the market. Know that it can be used for targeted drug delivery, smart implants. Because of its inert nature, it can act as a corrosion barrier between oxygen and water diffusion. Further, it can be used to develop smaller, slimmer batteries with high capacity, faster mode of charging, increased longevity than the traditional batteries. Thus, in this article, we have covered about the graphene in a holistic manner, which is very important for both preliminary and mains. With these learned points, let us look at the next news article of the day. This data point makes an aspirant's life easier. This is because the article informs us regarding the trend of women participation in the Lok Sabha, which is a favorite topic of UPSC from the society point of view. So, in this news article discussion, let us see important points in this article along with the mains answer writing discussion approach. Let me read out the question for you. Discuss the reasons for the low representation of women in parliament in India. Suggest measures to increase their representation. See, whenever you see the keyword discuss, it means you should give different perspective of that matter. So, you can split the main body part of the answer into two parts. In the first part, you can write about the reasons for the low participation of women in Indian parliament. But in the second part, you should write certain measures to be taken to increase their representation. See, this is how we are going to answer this question. Moving on to the intro part. Here, you can write the data from today's data point. The representation of women in the Lok Sabha has steadily increased from 4.5%, that is 22 MPs out of 489 in 1952 and 13.6% in 2024 Lok Sabha. But still, they do not constitute even 1/4 of the membership of Lok Sabha. And in the last 75 years of independence, women's representation in this Lok Sabha has not even increased by 10%. All these factors reflect the significant barriers that continue to impede the greater gender parity in political representation. some of them as follows. See, moving on to the first part of the answer, you should write that the first issue is patriarchal social structure and mindset. This includes societal prejudices where people think that women cannot balance private, family and political life. There is another reason called internalized patriarchy. See, it is a phenomenon where women themselves consider that it is their duty to prioritize household, family than the public life. Thereby, they don't even think about participating in politics. So, this is becoming a cycle again and again. In some cases, even when the reservation is given for women in the panchayats, there is a notorious practice called sarpanchpati system, where men act as a sarpanchpati by wielding the actual power and decision-making authority behind women who actually got elected as a sarpanch or pradhan in a panchayat raj system. See, all these are due to gender stereotypical and patriarchal mindset. Secondly, since women often receive less support and fewer resources for their campaigns compared to their male counterparts, political parties tend to field fewer women candidates due to perceived electability concerns. Thirdly, the high cost of electoral campaigns can be significant barriers for women who generally have less access to financial resources. Economic dependence on their male family members further limits the aspiration of women in political system. Fourthly, lack of gender-sensitive infrastructure and support system within the political institutions acts as a humble. See, there is a limited access to networks and mentorship opportunities for women in politics. Finally, women in politics often face gender-based violence, harassment both in online and offline, deterring them from entering or continuing in politics. Apart from this, other socio-economic barriers like poverty, illiteracy, lack of mobility limits the women's access to resources and opportunities. See, you can write all these points in the first part of the answer. Moving on to the second part of the body, here you can mention like some of the measures that can be taken to increase the phenomenon. Firstly, ensuring reservation of women in Lok Sabha. In that line, the Constitution 106th Amendment Act of 2023 reserves 1/3 of seats for women in Lok Sabha, State Legislative Assembly, Legislative Assembly of the National Capital Territory of Delhi, including those reserved for SC and ST, is a right step. Secondly, bringing women quota in political parties. For this, we can implement the GIL formula that make it mandatory for the recognized political parties to ensure putting of a minimum agreed percentage for women in elections in order to retain them recognition as a political parties with election commission. This can be a very good step. Thirdly, promoting inner party democracy. See, this can be done by providing training and mentorship program and establishing support networks for women politicians. Finally, society must dismantle the notion that women are confined to domestic duties. This can be done by conducting awareness campaigns to challenge and change the societal norms and promote the importance of women in political arena. Okay, this can be your body part of the answer. Moving on to the conclusion part, you can write like this. Despite challenges, women's political participation is increasing alongside the higher education levels and financial independence. Institutional reforms and societal transformation are necessary to enhance the representation of women in politics. See, continued efforts from the women organization and networks within the political parties and civil society are essential to assert the women's presence in politics. This is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about an important topic about the lack of participation of women in politics and steps that can be taken to solve it. Note this can be an important article for this mains and the subsequent mains. With this, let us move on to see the next news article of the day. This editorial article talks about the recent judgment given in M.K. Ranjit Singh and others versus Union of India related to the protection of Great Indian Bustard. In that judgment, the Apex Court recognized the right to be free from the adverse impact of climate change as a fundamental right. But the issue here is that India does not have a tailored legislation specific to its challenges. So, all we need is a holistic law that can reorient development towards low carbon and climate resilient futures. See, this is what this article is talking about. In this backdrop, let us revise some of the important points and facts given in the article. The core of the article is to suggest an institutional structure. Firstly, the author talks about an independent low carbon development commission. This commission should be staffed with experts and technical staffs which could offer both state and provincial government a practical ways of achieving low carbon growth and resilience. This body could also serve as a platform for deliberative decision making. Vulnerable communities and those that may lose from the technological changes need to be systematically consulted. Hearing their concerns and incorporating some of their ideas could lead to longer lasting policy outcomes. And This framework can also implement a high-level strategic body like the Climate Cabinet, consisting of central ministers and chief ministers. This will ensure collective decision-making in fight against climate change, and the fight can be enhanced with increasing higher institutional coordination to Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. To achieve a big goal like carbon emission and carbon resilience, center-state coordination is essential because the state and local government plays an important role in many areas like agriculture, electricity, water. Therefore, according to the article, the law has to consider three changes. Firstly, a channel for the subnational government to access the national specific capacity. This will build capacity in the local level. Secondly, articulating ways of financing local action. For example, like the article says, making the centrally sponsored scheme more aligned to climate actions. Thirdly, coordination. Like this will enable the central and state government to consult each other for major climate change related actions and issues. This includes periodical update of each other's plan. See, these are all given in the article. With this, let us look into the major steps taken by Government of India related to climate change mitigation. We will be discussing them one by one. Firstly, International Solar Alliance. See, this is an alliance of sunshine countries to effectively tap and use solar energy. It was launched in 2015 in collaboration with France. The alliance is aimed at building huge solar farms in Rajasthan. And later in 2018, the Prime Minister of India proposed the idea of One Sun, One World and One Grid. See, through this program, it aims to provide solar energy to 140 countries with the partnership of ISA and World Bank. Secondly, Swachh Bharat Mission. See, it provides focusing on sanitation and making the country open defecation free by 2019. See, this initiative is aimed to build over 100 million toilets in the nation. Thirdly, COP26 Summit in Glasgow in 2021. India announced 5 commitments to fight climate change. That is, to get net zero emissions by 2070. Secondly, India said that it will meet 50% of its energy demand from the renewable sources by 2030. Thirdly, India will decrease the total projected carbon emissions by 1 billion tons by 2030. Fourthly, India will take its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatt by the end of 2030. And lastly, the nation said that it will reduce the carbon intensity by more than 45% by 2030. The fourth step is, in 22-23, the year was declared as the International Year of Millet by UN. This resolution was sponsored by India and was supported by more than 70 nations. See, this brought the importance of millet to the world because it's highly nutritious and climate resilient. Due to many reasons, the climate change is accelerating these days, and the most affected section of the world is the people living in the lower strata of the society. Therefore, it is high time for every nation in this world to frame a law to protect the environment, and this new law should ensure both social justice and equity at the same time. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the various proposed measures in this article to fight climate change. With this, let us move on to see the next news article of the day. In recent parliamentary sessions, there has been significant controversy surrounding the expunction of remarks made by the members, particularly when the remarks critical of Prime Minister and the government were removed from the records. This has led to the debates over the fairness and consistency of the expunction process. For those who don't know what is that, expunction refers to the removal of certain words, phrases, expression from the official records of the parliamentary proceedings. This process is aimed at maintaining the decorum and ensuring that the language used in the debates are respectful and appropriate. Apart from the expunction, there is another important term that you should know from the preliminary perspective. It's nothing but parliamentary privileges. Okay, let us see them in a brief manner. See, parliamentary privileges are special rights, immunities and exemptions that are enjoyed by the two houses of the parliament, their committees and their individual members. These are rights and immunities without which the parliament and its members cannot discharge their function in an effective manner. Know that the purpose of the privileges is to safeguard the freedom, authority and dignity of the parliament. These privileges are enjoyed by individual members because the house cannot perform its functions without the unhindered uses of the services by these members. Then, the privileges are enjoyed by each house in a collective manner because the house has to protect its members and need to confirm its own authority and dignity. So, the parliamentary privileges are necessary in order to secure the independence and effectiveness of the parliament and its actions of the members. Without these privileges, the House can neither maintain authority, dignity and honor, nor can they protect their members from any obstruction in discharge of their parliamentary responsibilities. See, each House of the Indian Parliament collectively and its members individually enjoy certain powers, privileges and immunities. These are considered essential for them to discharge their functions and duties effectively without any hindrances. In this, some privileges are specified in the Constitution itself and some of them are given in the statutes, whereas some of them are specified in the rules of procedures and conduct of business of the House. And lastly, some privileges are based on the precedents and conventions also. Now, let us see the constitutional provisions which deals with these powers and privileges. Article 105 of the Constitution of India provides for the power, privileges and immunity of the House of Parliament, and same for the members of Parliament and committee. First, this provision provides freedom of speech in the Parliament. Secondly, no MP shall be liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said or any vote given by him or her in the Parliament or any of the committee. Then there is also immunity to a person from proceedings of any court in respect of publication of any report, paper, vote or proceedings by the authority or under the authority of either House or Parliament. Then there is a prohibition on the courts to inquire into the proceedings of the Parliament, which is provided by Article 122 of the Constitution. Then the next privilege is provided by Article 361A of the Constitution. It provides immunity to a person from any proceedings like civil or criminal in any court in respect of publication in a newspaper or substantially true report of proceedings of either House of the Parliament. This is applicable unless the publication is provided to have been made with the malice or to harm someone. See, this immunity is also available in relation to report broadcasted by videography. So, these were some of the constitutional provisions with respect to powers and privileges. Let us see other privileges also. See, the members are exempted from the liability to serve as a juror. Then there is a prohibition of disclosure of proceedings or a decision of secret sitting of the House. See, the House has the right to receive immediate information of the arrest, detention, convictions, imprisonment and release of member. Then there is a prohibition of arrest and services of legal process within the precedence or area of the House without obtaining the permission of Speaker or Chairman. Then lastly, the evidence tendered before the Parliamentary Committee and its report and proceedings cannot be disclosed or published by anyone until the same have been laid out in the table of houses. Like this, there are many privileges to the House of Members and committees and members to ensure that they work in a safe and effective manner. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the various privileges from the preliminary perspective. Okay, now with this, let us move to the next part of a video, that is to discuss the preliminary practice questions. Today we are having 3 questions. Let us see them. The first question, consider the following statements. In tropical regions, Zika virus is transmitted by the same mosquito that transmits dengue. See the second statement. Sexual transmission of Zika is possible. See, both these statements are correct. So the correct option is option C. Let us see the second question of the day. With reference to CNT, carbon nanotubes, consider the following statements. First one, can be used as carriers of drugs and antigens in the human body. See, the statement is correct. See the second one, they can be made into artificial blood capillaries. See, this is incorrect. See the third statement, they can be used in the biochemical sensors. And fourth one is they are biodegradable. See, other than option 2, all the 3 options are correct. So the correct option is option C, 1, 3 and 4 only. Let us see the final MCQ of the day. What is the primary purpose of parliamentary privileges? See, out of 4 options, we know that from our discussion that the parliamentary privileges are aimed to safeguard the freedom, authority and dignity of the Parliament. So the correct option is option B. If you like today's video, like, comment and share it with your friends. For more updates regarding UPSC preparation, subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy. Thank you very much.